When a train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, a quaint town came under a toxic cloud.
You smell the different sensations and chemicals within the smoke.
But they were told the air and water were safe.
Air is safe to breathe, and the water is safe to drink.
This week, we hear the concerns.
This is real. It's not just going to go away.
And we question what's in the future for East Palestine.
We need to know.
In the 70s, the Senate's Church Committee took on intel agencies and their abuses against American citizens. Current events seem to be forcing history to repeat itself.
What are some of the things that you're interested personally in first examining?
It's a target-rich environment.
This week, a new congressional committee that is investigating the investigators. And the global information overload. With access to more media and knowledge than at any point in history, are we better informed?
Where are we on that continuum today?
We're certainly way far away from where we started.
A frank discussion about the big picture when it comes to media literacy.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. The train derailment and toxic explosions in East Palestine may have largely faded from the headlines, but for the 4,000 or so residents of the Ohio town, they're still living under a cloud of uncertainty, mistrustful of government assurances, worried about the still unknown long-term safety risks, and wondering who will pay. Scott Thuman reports from East Palestine to get at the facts.
When it comes to tiny Rust Belt sections of the country still holding on to apple pie Americana, East Palestine, Ohio had it on lock. White picket fences and American flags in a small blue-collar town. That was until one cold winter night when that picture quite literally went up in flames. Just before 9 p.m. on February 3rd, an overheated wheel bearing on a Norfolk Southern freight train failed, sending 38 cars careening off the tracks, 11 of them carrying hazardous materials that ignited. Though nobody died, the fireball was all anyone in this town of just 4,700 people could focus on.
You could see the smoke with the fire.
Summer Magnus was on her back porch and quickly aware something even worse than the fire was coming her way.
And the smoke, not only could you smell the different sensations and chemicals within the smoke, but you could tell by the way that the burning was that it was caustic and toxic.
Those living within a mile of the disaster were ordered to evacuate. Being just outside that zone, Summer was told by local officials to stay put.
What we were told is shelter in place. Don't evacuate, there's nothing wrong, and nothing was said.
While local firefighters were first at the scene, state and federal officials, the Federal Emergency Management Agency and Environmental Protection Agency, soon followed. 2 days later, with the fire still smoldering, officials decided to release and ignite the remaining chemicals in 5 damaged cars to avoid a potentially deadly explosion.
This is our home.
Worried about their health, Carrie Lentz, her husband, and their 2 boys abandoned their picturesque home on Pleasant Street.
We were contemplating whether or not we should stay or go, but then we saw white smoke, and my husband had the knowledge and foresight to say, this is probably pretty bad, let's get out of here.
It's just not normal.
And then there are folks like Bob Figley, who went and came back after the mandatory evacuation was lifted, and now wonders if his family business, an industrial tool and parts supply shop, is a lost cause.
When you physically see something that's not natural happen, all these dead fish, then you realize, yeah, this is real. It's not just going to go away. It's like I said, every morning you wake up and it's like Groundhog Day. It's the same nightmare every day.
Outside, a stream of workers in yellow vests and odd-looking equipment, a sign that it might not be safe here. despite officials and leaders saying it is. And the governor drinking the local water for the cameras. Just off of Main Street, the flurry of activity is around the clock. Remarkably, one of the first tasks completed was the replacement of track and reopening of the railway line by Norfolk Southern. What critics insist has been much slower is the digging up and hauling away of potentially tainted ground, adding worries.
Experts say the danger chemicals pose changes over time as it interacts with air, water, and soil. And that means that the health threat lingers well after the immediate emergency is over.
Hundreds of tons of contaminated earth sitting in piles as government agencies and states argue over where it all should go.
There are piles of dirt accumulating in East Palestine. What happens if it rains? What happens if the very toxic dirt that we just dug out of the ground begins to seep back into the ground, causing problems for the air and water for the residents of East Palestine? We need...
Alan Shaw, the head of Norfolk Southern, testified on Capitol Hill that his company will pay for the cleanup and keep residents safe.
Air and water monitoring have been in place continuously since the accident. And to date, it consistently indicated that the air is safe to breathe and the water is safe to drink.
The skeptics back in East Palestine say it's reminiscent of another disaster. In the days following 9/11, then EPA Chief Christine Todd Whitman told residents of Lower Manhattan it was safe to resume life here. Yet years later, thousands, including first responders, were diagnosed with a variety of debilitating conditions. Whitman later apologized, saying the EPA did the best it could at the time. In East Palestine, there's concern the train company or government officials may be issuing assurances they shouldn't.
So this is our home, our temporary.
Lentz and her family are now in the second month of living in this hotel room, a safe 30 miles from home, but didn't leave their symptoms of coughs and eye infections behind.
What if my children get cancer? They're young kids. If I keep my kids here, what if they get cancer? That's something that Tim and I have to deal with. That's the decision that we have to make. Do we trust what they're telling us?
What are the questions in your head if you're listing off the things that you're wondering right now? What are they?
I just want the truth. I want to really know, and I want to feel confident in what you're telling me.
Do you think people are lying to you?
Well, I don't know.
Folks here don't trust what they call conflicting testing results from companies hired by Norfolk Southern versus independent ones. A specific concern, dioxins, highly toxic byproducts of burning chemicals that can cause cancer. An EPA regional leader grilled over how long it took to test for them.
Why did you wait a month before you started to order the dioxin testing when the community was asking for this?
Senator Capito, our air monitoring was searching for primary indicators. Without those primary indicators, it was a very low probability that dioxins would have been created.
While health is the top concern, finances are another. That dream home, the one on Pleasant Street with the pool and garden, Lentz guesses is now worth half of what they bought it for. Bob Figley is trying to get Norfolk Southern to buy him out of his hardware store, and Summer Magnus wants desperately to leave her home for good. The federal government says Norfolk Southern will cover the costs of the cleanup, and the state of Ohio is suing the company for compensation. It wants long-term commitments from the troubled train company. While lawmakers in Washington want more than just promises that things will be, quote, made right.
Will you commit to compensating affected homeowners for their diminished property values?
Senator, I'm committing to do what's right.
Well, what's right is a family that had a home worth $100,000 that is now worth $50,000 will probably never be able to sell that home for $100,000 again. Will you compensate that family for that loss?
Senator, I'm committed to do what's right.
If they're to make it right, you want to know what exactly that means.
Yes. Not just make it right, define right on all levels: health, interaction with the people, property value, continuous health care monitoring. We did not do this. We were at home. They assumed the full liability, and they want to make it right, define what right is. We're owed that.
A return to normal anytime soon here, the hope, but not the expectation.
You mentioned there's also been independent testing being conducted. Are there any findings in from that yet?
Well, it's still going on, but Pittsburgh's Carnegie Mellon University and Texas A&M surveyed East Palestine using a mobile lab in late February. And what they found were levels of a chemical irritant called acrolein that were 3 times higher than in Pittsburgh. And they also found elevated levels of other chemical irritants. Just about everyone agrees that more long-term testing is going to be needed.
All right, Scott, thanks so much. Very interesting. Ahead on Full Measure, investigating the investigators. There's a new committee in Congress created by Republicans and modeled after the Church Committee in the 1970s. It's already digging into alleged abuses by those in the FBI, the Department of Justice, and other federal agencies.
These hearings have one overriding objective: the development of sufficient information for Congress to legislate appropriate standards for the FBI.
In 1975, Senator Frank Church, a Democrat, led a new Senate committee tasked with investigating government abuse against Americans.
If fault is to be found, it does not rest in the Bureau alone. It is to be found also in the long line of attorneys general, presidents, and Congresses who have given power, and responsibility to the FBI, but have failed to give it adequate guidance, direction, and control.
The allegations sound eerily familiar to today. The FBI and CIA were accused of unconstitutional spying on U.S. citizens. The findings inspired new controls, including creation of a secretive foreign intelligence surveillance court to add checks on U.S. intel agencies. But in recent years, that court and others have unearthed ongoing abuses by the same intel agencies. Now the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government will investigate more current government attacks on American civil liberties. Republican Thomas Massey is on the new committee.
What are some of the things that you're interested personally in first examining?
It's a target-rich environment. We're looking for acts of commission, not omission. Okay, it's weaponization. It's not incompetence. So I would start with what we know, what's already in the public, which is the Twitter files, for instance. The fact that we know the FBI paid Twitter, we know the FBI suggested and Twitter complied with, in fairness to them, they occasionally pushed back, but they did comply in many instances of shutting down the free speech of private citizens at the insistence of the government, who was paying them, if not directly for that activity, at least for another activity. And I think you've got a violation of the First Amendment when you have a collaboration that's that close.
When there is a violation of a constitutional amendment, who punishes that, or what is the recourse, particularly if the agency making the alleged error or misconduct is in charge of prosecutions? There's not going to be a prosecution of themselves.
I've run into this before on the Oversight Committee.
Massey harkens back to the IRS's Lois Lerner, who eventually apologized for being part of weaponizing the tax agency against conservative groups ahead of the 2012 presidential election. And Attorney General Eric Holder, who refused to testify to Congress on the Obama administration's secret operations such as Fast and Furious that armed Mexican drug cartels.
We called in Lois Lerner and she took the Fifth.
My counsel has advised me that I have not waived my constitutional rights under the Fifth Amendment, and on his advice, I will decline to answer any question on the subject matter of this hearing.
It's pretty clear that she was upper mid-level management, and whether she was acting at the direction of somebody or acting on her own, that she was undertaking unconstitutional activity against Americans, and we never were able to convict her or even get to her pension. Then you had Eric Holder, who was in contempt of Congress and refused to answer our questions or to show up. And we referred him to the DOJ. And is the DOJ going to investigate their boss? Well, in that case, they didn't. But things have changed a little bit. With the January 6th committee, they sort of set some precedents that, you could go after private citizens, and if they didn't show up, even if they're no longer working for the government, they were referred criminally and in some cases pursued.
So let's say you unearth what you see are some persistent problems or politicization or weaponization. What is something practical you could see potentially coming out of this, something realistic?
Legislation. I think creating causes of action, for instance. It's really hard to sue the federal government. Maybe we need to create some more of those areas so that when this does happen again, people have an ability to go to the courts. At the end of the day, the big thing that these organizations, or maybe I should call them organisms, fear is cutting off their food source, which is money. And that's ultimately what we can do, even if we can't prosecute the individuals in charge.
One other provision, the new committee is specifically permitted to investigate ongoing investigations, just like the Democrats' January 6th committee did. Federal agencies typically give ongoing investigations as an excuse not to give information to Congress, which is tasked with doing oversight. When we return, who's behind the curtain, managing our information? Perhaps the single biggest influence on society today is the monolith of information comprised of the internet, social media, and online news and information. Nolan Higdon studies the big picture when it comes to that and true media literacy, not telling people who to believe, but expanding their minds to understand the nature of information and those who shape or manipulate it. He's a professor of history and communication at University of California, Santa Cruz. When we look at the Twitter files and social media in general, and the role that they played in concert with the media and public health officials during COVID, what do you think happened there?
Yeah, so social media platforms are always manipulated. There's never been this Wild West freedom of objectivity. At some level, they're always managed. But what we notice from the Twitter files is way more influence from outside actors, political parties, both the Democrats and Republicans, of course the government, members of industry like Big Pharma. And I think where part of this certainly comes from is we know that the government always worked with these tech companies. That's what Snowden revealed. We know politicians always rub shoulders with these tech companies. But I think after the moral panic over fake news, these companies were afraid that for the first time they might lose some of their protections, particularly Section 230, right, the 26 words that invented the internet, which protects these platforms for getting sued over the content that's on them. That's why we have social media. And I think they had a knee-jerk reaction that whoever was in power, they were going to listen to whatever those in power said, because that way they could keep their Section 230 protections. And so they worked with, the Trump administration had a lot of meetings with Mark Zuckerberg and those folks while he was president. And the moment he realized he was not going to be president anymore, they flipped and they were on Team Biden. And I think we'll see more of this as social media continues to cozy itself up to those in power.
If we're on some sort of continuum when it comes to access to information, unfettered access to information, I would say in the beginning, the internet provided quite a bit of fairly unfettered access. Yes, you went through a search engine and so on, but there was nobody telling you in general that you couldn't see stuff overtly. Where are we on that continuum today?
We're certainly way far away from where we started in terms of the boundless access to information, or the information superhighway, as they called it when I was a kid. It's way more managed now. And the average user kind of has a delusion of power when they sit in front of their screen. They think they're being empowered to access all the information in the world and more than anybody in human history. It's really a whole managed, curated experience. These companies will tell you what you can and can't see. I know this firsthand. I teach news literacy, so one of the things I teach students to do is to find news articles from different funding sources and different ideologies. You can't do that on Google anymore. If you Google news, any topic, they only give you legacy corporate media sources. So unless you know the other sources exist and go to them directly, Google will not send them to you. And that's one example of how managed and curated our experience is online.
What advice do you give students, and what advice would you give Americans who really want to have a less controlled experience to be able to make up their own minds about information?
I think it's having some skepticism about too much power being in the hands of government and or industry is very helpful. I would say stop giving into this impulse to say, like, let's let government get rid of some information for us, or let big tech do it. They seem like, you know, nice people in Silicon Valley. They're not. This is really bad to empower these folks to determine which information we see. At a basic level, I think users would be wise to search out information from a multitude of sources, not just right versus left, but also corporate versus independent funded, you know, elitist versus populist media, try and get different views. Interrogate the sources that these people use, interrogate the journalists, make sure they have a history of being right. Interrogate the news source. Who is this outlet? Do they have a history of sending fake news? And these kind of basic questions can be really helpful in making sure you don't become part of the fake news problem where you're spreading and believing fake news.
One of Higdon's recent books is Media and Me, a guide to critical media literacy for young people. We'll be right back. An update on our reporting about parents around the country clashing with schools over everything from critical race theory to controversial gender teachings. A Parents' Bill of Rights recently passed by the Republican-controlled House may die on the vine. The bill gives parents the right to review school budgets and curriculum, inspect reading materials, be informed about violence at school, and more. Democrats oppose the bill, saying it permits parents to bully teachers in schools. Since Democrats control the Senate and the White House, analysts say it has no chance of becoming law. Coming up next week on Full Measure, during the COVID pandemic, a record number of people were denied legally written prescriptions, including for ivermectin.
To have that denied, especially when our physician contacted them directly and said, this is the correct prescription, this is the correct dosage, you need to fill this for my patient, and no was the answer, I won't do this.
Both sides have an important debate about the power to prescribe medicine next week on Full Measure. And we want to share some exciting news from Full Measure. We're rolling out a new and improved website, fullmeasure.news. It's where you can go to view our program every Sunday if you wish. You can also browse through a wealth of our archives going back 8 years now, original and investigative reporting that we think remains as relevant and interesting today as when we first reported it. You'll also find out where to watch our program on TV and get a little background on the incredible Full Measure team. So check out our new look at fullmeasure.news. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, we'll be searching for more stories that hold powers accountable.